Alright, brief update here. Here's the 77 MG. It has been painted midnight blue from TCP Global. It's a urethane single stage. Comes out nice and shiny. I'll do some more buffing in the spring. It's got a nice finish there. Where are we at right now? Before I put the engine back in, which is sitting here on the stand, painted it, replaced the rod bearings in it, all the gaskets, just cleaned everything up and painted it then. And I'm working on the trans. We'll get to that next. But also in the meantime, I've redid the heater box, got all the wiring in there and everything, put a new rheostat thing in there so that it's a 2-speed fan still. So you can see here I got all new lines for the brakes. Just painted the vacuum booster, but I did get a new master, brake master, and yeah, all new lines. The copper nickel, that's real easy to bend and put flares on. So here's a new fuel line as well. I'm going to still trim this sucker and put it in a little better, but that's coming all the way from the tank. Got the tank in, and the fuel pump is back there and everything. Started putting the wiring in. This was, the wiring harness in this car was really messed up, just hacked. So I bought this as a used wiring harness from a 78 actually, pretty much the same as 77. Put the blue tape on it that's factory, just as some new wrapping. So you see I'm just starting to get that in there, and we'll continue that process, but it's comes through the firewall there and everything. So next up, we're working over here on, let me turn down my radio a little bit. Working on, here's the solenoid from the Overdrive. And I'm doing all the different pieces of the Overdrive. Just about to solder this on here because the wire was just shot. And there's a new grommet and some heat shrink that I'm going to solder and then, slide that down. Okay, so I soldered that. Here's the solenoid, and got the new grommet down on the end there. It's actually a double layer of heat shrink tubing on there right now, just because I got it resoldered with just, and I'm using some red wire from another wiring loom. I'll tell you the main reason is because this has got the original bullet connector on it, and then I don't have to try to mess with that factory bullet connector, which is tough to do right. So here's the solenoid. To get that new grommet on, that was kind of a bear. I ended up, if you're messing with that ever, I ended up using 2 tiny screwdrivers, stuck them in there, these little tiny type, and actually stuck them in the grommet there just to kind of open up the hole a little bit, and slid it past the heat shrink tubing and everything and down. Because of course that's a nice tight fit and doesn't want to go on there. Then I just put another little wider piece of heat shrink tubing on there to clean it up. So next, this solenoid will go in. New gasket from Moss for that cover. Here's the cover that, of course, you recognize as the blue label Overdrive, and that'll cover the solenoid. All right. Yeah, so this is the cylinder that goes in there. Don't lose your little ball. Of course, it's a little bit different size than the other one. Get it down in there, and we can just slide that down in. All right, let me put this down. I'll get it together and then show us. Okay, going back in with the solenoid. You can see a little oil in there. I cleaned this out a ton. It's just what kind of drains back, but I use compressed air and parts cleaner, just like John Twist does in his videos. Definitely check those out on the Overdrive. So here's the solenoid going in with the new grommet. It'll fit right in there real nice. Yeah, it's gonna be a nice tight press fit when I put that cover on. So that'll push in there. And what I'll do, I'll have to do it two-handed here, is put on this new, with the new gasket, the cover, and we'll bolt that in right here and catch up with it. All right, 5/16 going on here. You can see that grommet kind of compressing. Get it in here. I've just been going real gradual. And I did just use the paper gasket in here from Moss without, you know, any sealant, which I always feel like I should use some kind of sealant on a gasket too, you know. But I'm going to try this one just with paper like people say to do. And you know what, if it leaks, I can easily get under the car and unscrew this puppy and just put on some gasket sealer in there. So I figure, what the heck, it's easy to do. Alright, so we'll just kind of tighten this up. I doubt there's torque specs anywhere on this, but this you'd want to just do 2 inch-pounds. Nothing too ridiculous with the aluminum. So we'll get this tightened up here. All right, next to go in is this low pressure oil relief valve. You can see I'm checking my pictures on my phone from when I took it apart, but I've blasted this with cleaner and compressed air. There's a little metal filter here, really awesome. All new O-rings on it, everything's cleaned up. I've got it, and new O-ring there, and a new gasket on the plug. So now we're going to bolt this in. All right, bolted it in, 3/4 inch socket. It's in. Next up is our filter and cover. You can see here I already put in this other valve here is already in there. Looking at my pictures, and it wouldn't go any other way, that this goes this way with this tab over here. Now, of course, I got to get the filter in there first. Now, John Twist, again, in his videos, you know, don't use any sealant on it. We'll just put some grease on the edges to hold it in place. So I'll do that here, and we'll get it in. All right, got it in place with some grease on it. That's just grease on there. It wasn't going anywhere. Getting it over that piece there was making it stick. All right, so I'll start to screw this in, and our overdrive unit will be refreshed. Next up, we're going to do the main seal on the back of the overdrive. This thing was leaking something fierce when I took this out of the car. Got the new seal from Moss. Something I like to use also on the outside of it is anaerobic sealer. Just gives it a good seal in there. All right, let me hit that trusty piece of PVC we're going to use to just bop it down nice and evenly. Of course, when I say evenly, I mean barely even at all. Now we'll do our best here. Come on, baby. So that's it for today. Tune in, subscribe, we'll keep updating the 77 MG. Next, we're working on the front of the transmission, the seal, clutch, everything in there. See ya.